I wanted to talk about something because it's coming into my mind. It's the notion of spiritual spring. Okay, so there's this period of acclimation that a person goes through when they're learning to be more in touch with their spiritual gifts, and they're aligning kind of what their mind is offering them in the way of like what was once a dormant type of perception or like empathetic gifting around like psychic understanding of the world and how you relate to the world around you and therefore others. Like it's this expansion within us that changes the way we see things, and we acclimate to navigating the world with this different type of awareness. And what I'm seeing is like the spring that would be in a pen, a click pen, or I'm also seeing like the twists of a cut plush carpet, like however many times the carpet tufts have been twisted is going to impact its bounciness, right? So there's something that happens when you're trying to stabilize yourself in a point of expansion and get used to holding more frequency on a regular basis, where you tend to experience it in more of a bipolar way, where sometimes you're like, everything makes sense, I'm really in touch, there's this high thing going on, and then real life might set in and it becomes a little more inaccessible, and you feel a little more tripped up by the common day, everyday, occurrences that may happen that take you out of that more expanded spiritual perspective on things. And it can be really disheartening and confusing because you're like, it's all normal again. I can't trust the magic. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not having as much success. Or you get knocked down a peg for whatever reason. And then you go through another phase or another period of amplifying again the things that are trying to push through the surface in terms of what the world is now, appearing to you as through your refined lens and focus. Then you kind of go back up again. And so that's very normal, and it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable all the time, but you could describe the low moments as like a funk. Like I feel like I'm in a funk, and then I kind of get out of my funk. Like be very, very patient with yourself around those times where you kind of fall back into a period of not really like seeing as clearly, because the oscillations they get, it could be, I hope not, but it could be bigger, swings into like almost, mania and depression, really, where you kind of feel like you have everything figured out and you love your life and it makes sense and there's a lot of potential and you're excited about the future. And then it goes into like a foggier state of not being able to see with that type of clarity, which then affects the way that we feel about what we're doing. And we kind of feel like it may have been like misled, right? It's a feeling of not being able to trust your intuition because you're not as connected to it in those like lower times. Those oscillations will become shorter and shorter and shorter because it's all about holding the frequency. That is what is going on in what I'm talking about. In the experience of spiritual expansion, what's going on is that your body, your mind, your spirit, it's all getting used to holding all of that, being able to hold it without those fluctuations, with a more sustained pitch, tune, frequency. I talk about this with like the tuning note and stuff. So some really hard times in my life were times when I went back and forth, and it has to do with going inside to remind yourself of what's true for you. It's 333 when I look up, and self-validate. And it doesn't always end up being enough, but whatever deters you and kind of leads you back into a path of like sleeping state, or, before you get spiked back into being like synchronicities, the world is magic, I am connected, I am a conscious creator who has, a say in how my life goes. Not entirely, right? Because we're co-collaborators with the universe. That's how it goes. And the building blocks are, the energy, the materials of life, and the things that materialize to make the world around you, therefore the experiences that you're having. That's the energy that flows through. And you can direct that with intention and whatnot, but you just need to respect the process of how that actually goes and looks. And by that I mean like, making sure you're not too attached to certain things. So personally, I'm having a good moment today of realizing like I really am not at risk anymore of being knocked down into that state. Nothing can really thwart my faith. It's taken a long time for me to get to that point, and I'm not saying like it's literally been most of my conscious adult, young adult life, really. Most of it. Trying to find this type of stability that I've come into this year, 2023. So that's fantastic. And I sense with the energies that are going on now, like the reason why I'm talking about this is because I know that if I wasn't at the place where I'm at now, I would be kind of knocked down into that place of like not really understanding and maybe questioning things. So I'm sharing this because maybe that's a point where other people are at. Just know that those are serving you. The things that appear to start to go wrong when you're like, maybe this isn't the way to navigate the world, or I don't even know how to put this into words, right? But the lower points on that spring effect thing that goes kind of up and down, whatever it is, the literal physical people and situations and stuff, all of those are of design to inconvenience you so particularly that you are led back to the knowing and the faith. Which some may be like, okay, it's not that designed. Yeah, I mean, it is. It is. So when you're in these times of being truly challenged and like faith is being tested again, look to why, look to everything you may have done, everything that may have happened, look to why, as if every event in the present moment has a comet trail. Look to the comet trail and be like, at this very moment in time, what has led to this? Maybe it doesn't matter, but in some cases, like if it's out of your control, but in some cases, it can really help you understand where within that comet trail, right, the history of the event you're experiencing in the moment, where there might have been a subtle deviation from like that knowing, like where you had a nudge or an inkling that you went against instead of continuing to, you know, maybe against your logical mind or the judgment of others or your better judgment, you kind of went away from the inner knowing. There's something available to us in the way of self-reflection where the universe wants us to be able to reflect, because it's the exercising of our free will that gets us to a lot of circumstances in our lives. So the process that I'm describing would be like self-reflection around our own choices and how they lead to certain outcomes, for the purpose of micro adjustments going forward, but also for then also sinking into the radical acceptance around like, well, it doesn't make sense, I did my best, yet this is still happening. So it's just one of those times where I'm not meant to know, or I'm just being asked to sink into the more blind aspects of faith that feel less and less uncomfortable over time, because you won't have to sustain the blind faith or the knowing or the uncertainty for as long as you have in the past. And so what I mean by that is like, maybe I'm seeing myself as a 21-year-old holding a candle in a dark, just holding the candle, right? Holding the faith in the dark. Like there were some pretty dark times for me where I was like, I know this is still true. I don't know how it's going to get me out of this, but I still believe the stuff I believe in. And you won't have to sit in the dark with that candle, right? Because then the lights will come back on. So the periods of darkness or confusion or indecision will become shorter and shorter. And so I'm just putting this out there to say, like, hold the faith in those moments, because it's really powerful, but it won't reveal itself to you unless you give it the space to, which is why it takes commitment and perseverance. Like faith is the word. Also, I had I got a lot to say, and I know I said I was going to take like 5 days off, but I had a very, very, very profound restructuring of a lot of ideas last night, and I was working with just so many different plans, and I'm gonna record a series of videos to get that kind of off my desk, as it were, and then take a break, and then come back in a very different way. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Have a fabulous day.